The Empire had conquered 17 star systems in the last 300 years. Their warships moved through the galaxy like a disease spreading from world to world. No species had ever stopped them. No civilization had ever survived their attacks. The High Council of believed they were the greatest power in the known universe. They had never been wrong before. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Flame. Around him floated a holographic display showing the blue and green world called Earth. His 4 eyes studied the planet with curiosity. The humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They were children compared to their technology was primitive. Their military was weak. This conquest would take perhaps a few hours at most. Behind the Eternal Flame waited 800 warships. Destroyers and cruisers and battle carriers stretched across the darkness of space like an iron wall. Each ship carried weapons capable of destroying cities. Each crew member had been trained since birth for war. The Armada had never lost a single battle. Today would be no different. The order had come directly from the Supreme Overlord himself. Earth possessed resources the Empire needed. The planet sat at a strategic position between two important trade routes. The humans would be enslaved. Their world would be stripped of everything valuable. Their culture would be erased from history. This was the way of this was how empires grew strong. Pressed a button on his command chair. His voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. He told his warriors to prepare for battle. He told them victory was certain. He reminded them of their glorious history. They had crushed species far more advanced than humans. This would be their easiest conquest yet. The Armada began moving toward Earth. Sensors showed minimal orbital defenses. A few satellites circled the planet. Some space stations floated in the darkness. Nothing that could threaten 800 warships. Almost felt disappointed. He had hoped for at least some challenge. When the fleet crossed the orbit of Mars, the first warning came. A scout ship detected an energy signature unlike anything in their databases. The signature was massive. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Before the scout could report further details, its signal vanished. The ship simply ceased to exist. Ordered the fleet to maintain course. One lost scout meant nothing. Perhaps the humans had a few surprises. It would not matter. Numbers always won in war. They had the numbers. They had the firepower. They had centuries of experience. The Armada passed through the asteroid belt without incident. Earth grew larger could see the continents now. He could see the cities glowing with light. 7 billion humans lived down there. 7 billion future slaves waiting to serve the Empire. Then the darkness came alive. The first wave hit them without warning. Beams of pure white light erupted from hidden platforms scattered through space. These were not ordinary weapons. They passed through shields like water through cloth. Each beam struck with perfect accuracy. Each beam destroyed its target completely. Watched in horror as 50 ships exploded in the first second. Another 100 died in the second. The beams came from every direction. They came from asteroids that had seemed lifeless. They came from satellites that had appeared harmless. They came from the void itself. The admiral screamed orders at his crew. He demanded return fire. He demanded evasive maneuvers. His commands meant nothing. The human weapons moved faster than targeting systems could track. By the time a gunner aimed at one platform, it had already destroyed 3 more ships. The Eternal Flame shuddered under the first impact. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Damage reports flooded the command center. The flagship's shields had been designed to withstand nuclear weapons. The human beam had cut through them like paper. Finally understood his mistake. The humans had not been defenseless. They had been waiting. Every primitive satellite was a weapon in disguise. Every harmless station hid enough firepower to destroy a fleet. Earth had not ignored the universe because it was weak. Earth had ignored the universe because it had nothing to fear from it. The second wave was worse than the first. Missiles launched from the human moon. These missiles did not explode. They released clouds of microscopic machines that ate through metal like acid. Ships began falling apart while their crews still breathed. Warriors who had never known fear suddenly found themselves drifting through space, watching their armor dissolve around them. Admiral tried to order a retreat. The communication systems failed. The engines failed. The life support systems began failing. The eternal flame was dying, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Through could see his armada being slaughtered. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles were being torn apart like toys. The proud war machine was being dismantled piece by piece. 800 warships were becoming 800 fields of debris. A new signal appeared on the damaged sensors. Something was approaching from Earth. Assumed it would be more weapons. He was wrong. It was a single small vessel, a human shuttle moving slowly through the carnage it had helped create. The shuttle stopped near the crippled flagship. A voice crackled through the emergency channels. It spoke in perfect language. The humans had learned their tongue. The humans had studied them. The humans had been preparing for this moment for decades. The voice belonged to a human female. She identified herself as Admiral Wei of the United Earth Defense Force. She welcomed the to human space. She apologized for the violence. She explained that it had been necessary. Listened in disbelief as the human admiral explained. Earth had detected the Empire 80 years ago. They had watched the Empire conquer world after world. They had studied tactics and technology. They had known this attack was coming long before the Supreme Overlord gave the order. The humans had spent 80 years preparing. They had built weapons the galaxy had never seen. They had hidden defenses in every corner of their solar system. They had turned their home into a fortress disguised as a nursery. Any species foolish enough to attack would face complete destruction. Admiral offered a choice. He could order any surviving ships to surrender immediately. The prisoners would be treated with respect. They would be returned to their empire after peace negotiations concluded, or he could refuse. The remaining ships would be destroyed. No prisoner would be taken. Looked at his. Only 43 ships remained from his 800. Most were damaged beyond repair. His warriors were dying by the thousands. The mighty Armada had been reduced to scrap metal in less than 20 minutes. The admiral made his choice. He gave the order to surrender. For the first time in 300 years, warriors lowered their weapons before an enemy. For the first time in history, the Empire admitted defeat. Admiral kept her promises. The prisoners were treated well. Medical care was provided to the wounded. Food and water were given freely. The humans did not torture their captives. They did not humiliate them. They showed mercy that they had never shown to others. Was allowed to send a message back to his. He recorded everything that had happened. He described the weapons he had witnessed. He explained how completely outmatched the Empire had been. He warned the Supreme Overlord never to attack Earth again. The message traveled faster than light across the galaxy. It reached the capital within days. The Supreme Overlord watched the recording in his throne room. He saw his greatest admiral broken and defeated. He saw his mightiest fleet reduced to floating wreckage. He understood immediately that the universe had changed. Emergency councils were called. Military leaders debated for weeks. Some wanted revenge. They demanded that every ship in the Empire attack Earth together. They believed that sheer numbers could overcome any defense. The older leaders disagreed. They had seen the recordings. They had analyzed the human weapons. The technology was beyond anything they possessed. Attacking Earth with 10,000 ships would simply mean losing 10,000 ships. The humans were not a species to be conquered. They were a species to be avoided. The Supreme Overlord made his decision. A treaty would be offered. The Empire would recognize human sovereignty. No ship would enter human space without permission. Trade agreements could be discussed. War was no longer an option. Ambassadors were sent to Earth. They expected to find a planet of warriors. They expected cities built like fortresses and populations trained for combat. They were surprised by what they discovered. Earth was beautiful. Gardens and forests covered the continents. Cities were designed for comfort, not defense. The humans spent their time creating art and music and literature. They raised families and built communities. They lived peaceful, happy lives. The ambassadors asked about the weapons. They wanted to know how such a peaceful species had created such destructive technology. The humans smiled at the question. They explained that they had learned from their own history. Humanity had spent thousands of years fighting itself. World wars had killed hundreds of millions. Nuclear weapons had threatened total annihilation. Humans knew better than anyone how dangerous intelligent life could be. They had built their defenses because they understood what creatures were capable of. The same creativity that produced poetry also produced plasma cannons. The same determination that built hospitals also built orbital defense platforms. Humans were not naturally violent, but they were very, very good at violence when it was required. The ambassadors returned home with a simple message. Earth was not a target. Earth was not an enemy. Earth was a neighbor that wanted peace but was prepared for war. The thing the Empire could do was accept friendship and never provoke humanity again. Admiral eventually returned to space. He retired from military service. He spent his remaining years telling anyone who would listen about his experience. He became famous as the only commander to survive a battle with humans. When younger warriors asked if humans were truly dangerous, always gave the same answer. He told them to look at the night sky. He told them to find the small yellow star where Earth orbited. He told them to remember that those peaceful farmers and artists and musicians had destroyed 800 warships in 20 minutes. Then he told them to imagine what would happen if humanity ever decided to stop being peaceful. The young warriors always understood. The lesson spread through culture like fire through dry grass. Within a generation, attacking Earth had become unthinkable. The humans had earned something no other species in the galaxy possessed. They had earned the fear and respect of the conquerors. They had proven that evolution's path could create gentle souls with terrifying strength. They had shown that the universe belonged not to those who sought war, but to those who were prepared to end it. Earth continued to grow and explore and create. Humanity spread across the stars, bringing art and science and wonder to every world they touched. They made allies of former enemies. They lifted struggling species toward prosperity. And deep in the hearts of every spacefaring civilization lived a simple truth. The humans were kind. The humans were generous. The humans were friends. But nobody ever forgot what happened to the Armada. Nobody ever forgot what waited in that quiet corner of the galaxy. Nobody ever made the mistake of threatening Earth again. The universe had learned its lesson. Humanity had taught it well.